an India-Cyprus event is being organized by a Russian entrepreneur. Because in 1990, if I'm not mistaken, when I created the first software company, which was the first software joint venture in the private sector between Russia and India, actually the holding company was a Cypriot company. And then as an Indian businessman, I created the Russian Digital Alliance, which was the first association of Russian software companies in outsourcing business. So nowadays, nationalities don't matter. We're all global citizens. And I will tell the High Commissioner that we can reserve an Indian passport for Natalia also. So I will not make any speech. I will just state a very interesting fact. In 2015, IBM commissioned a global study about the future of the world economy. And these economists that were very well-respected economists from World Bank, Harvard, Chicago, they concluded that the 21st century belongs to India. What does it mean? It means that India is poised to become one of the strongest economies in the world. In what context we can put it? For much of 15th, 16th, and 17th centuries, right up until the barbarians arrived in India, in fact, India was the world's greatest economy. It was much bigger than all of Europe put together. It was certainly bigger than United States. And it was much bigger than China and Japan. The only reason Indian economy could not sustain its prosperity was that unlike much of the Western economies, it was not based on war. Indian economy, as Indian people, were so peaceful, so pacifist. We did not have fortifications in India. We did not have standing armies in India. We did not have armaments production in India. Indians are warriors. But they lived in peace with each other, despite having 40 languages. Look at the history of Europe, how all Europe fights with each other. We haven't had that in India for 1,000 years. Indians live in peace with each other. So they were not prepared for a Western invasion or a barbaric invasion. Now that India is a democracy, it's a strong country, it's a very well-defended country, it's a very diverse country, it's a very highly educated country, it is poised for great things. Let me start with Areti. You have just returned from India, and I believe it is your third or fourth trip. Tell us your impressions about India and its economy.
I believe that the best knowledge is acquired by experience and by heart. So, I will talk from my personal experience and from my heart. I am dealing with Indians many years, and the first time I visited India was 30 years ago. I have very good relationship, both on a personal level and on a professional level. Lately, actually last month, I visited India for attending a wedding. And it was so fascinating there. You realize that we share the same values. You see the families, the care, the ties of families, the care about their children, the concern, the agony, everything. Also, every time I visit India, I see a lot of difference in economy and in people, and the energy, the action, it's a fascinating country. I love India.
So let's ask Elena. You also traveled more than 10 times to India?
This is my 14th time.
14th time.
Last January, yes.
So, first of all, Cypriots, take that in. 14th time in India.
Okay. And actually,
Tell us what's your feeling of India.
My first encounter with the country was back in 1983 when I just finished my studies in Switzerland, then went to England to work. There was a big community of Indians there. So I was really intrigued to go and visit their country. I love the Indian food as well, so I thought, let's go and taste the original Indian food. Actually, it was a shock to start with, because in those days it wasn't so developed. My visit in Accra to visit Taj Mahal, I thought I was living in times of Oliver Twist. It was so, primitive, but of course yet so authentic. So going back to UK, I started organizing trips to India for people to visit this authentic destination. Back in 1988, returned to Cyprus, and then ever since, I organize every summer, and of course nowadays people travel all over the time, many groups to India. Why India? It's so authentic, it's so cultural. It offers, unique experiences, because probably you visit Ireland to taste a medieval banquet, and probably you will do it, in a less touristic way, but it's virtual reality and so on. While in India, you can have tea with the Maharaja of Jaipur at the City Palace. It's so authentic. You can go in the Amber Fort in Jaipur, and you can go up in the fort with the elephants. Again, it's a unique experience. So I see the country developing so fast.
I'll come back to you and ask you about how India has changed since 1983 within the short time of 20 to 30 years as you go now. But Kostas, last year you were with the presidential delegation, and President Anastasiadis was very well received and with a lot of warmth in Delhi. And this was your first visit to India. What was your impression from this visit?
Compared to Eleni and Areti, I'm an amateur in Indian trips. But as you mentioned, and Marios also mentioned before, we had the chance to go there last year. It was an amazing trip, an amazing experience. And I remember a couple of things. I remember a lot of things, but a couple of things were impressive on the level of optimism and difference compared to, the culture of European countries and what's going on over there. I remember the welcoming address speech of one official. If I remember well, he was the chairman of Yes Bank, and he was welcoming the president of the republic there. And his first words were, "Be ready to close a seat, book your flight ticket, as we are prepared to take off." And he was speaking about the Indian economy. So if you want to be a partner with us, just take your seat in our flight that it's over to take off. On the same time, the level of, the modesty and the politeness of the people being there in the audience. We were there, we had the chance to be there with very well-respected people, wealthy. They were so modest, so polite. Everywhere you could see that. Imagine of being there for accompanying the president, that the roads were all closed, and the people, instead of getting angry, were so polite. They were cheering us. So it's a very different level of culture, and I was really impressed on how Indian people are doing business are living actually, and it's why they are so developing. I mean, it starts from the heart, as Areti said.
I think it's very interesting. All of you started mentioning about Indian culture and humility. Actually, I can open a secret now. It's no longer a secret. High Commissioner talked about transparency. He's such a humble, gentle person, but he's actually the toughest guy from India. He was head of India's Central Bureau of Investigation. He was the top policeman of the country. So, but he's so humble and so friendly and nice. This is the spirit of India. Anna, tell us what you do and what is the role of India in your worldview of this wonderful organization that you are running in Nicosia.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your kind words, Ajay, in the short introduction. I'm afraid my co-panelists have put me in front of a huge challenge because myself, I've never been to India yet. So I've placed the yet because I like to look at the glass half full instead of half empty. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to introduce very briefly the Royal Commonwealth Society Cyprus branch, which a few among you may already be familiar with. The Cyprus branch was established in 2017, but we are part of an organization, an umbrella organization, which has been there since 1868. So we are actually celebrating 150 years of RCS this year. So our branch is part of this network. We are a part of an international network of branches, but also other organizations and individuals that have as their core mission to promote the values and the principles of the modern Commonwealth, which I will not enumerate, but as you can imagine, among them we have the promotion of prosperity, the rule of law, human rights, sustainable development, growth, and so on and so forth. I took up my duties in last September, and I'm happy to share with you that I was humbled and touched that the High Commissioner of India was one of the first to support us in our activities. And also our sister organization, the Indian branch of the RCS, was one of the first to reach out, to welcome us, and one of the first to seek into approaching us. This resulting to a delegation coming from India back in January for context, a week of context with policymakers, academia, business people, and so on and so forth.
So, we'll continue. Areti, what fascinates me is that, for example, Dubai, it's also been built over the last 20, 25 years, all of New Dubai. And I think 90% of the investors in Dubai are Indians. And Dubai is, the size of construction in Dubai is maybe, even with the best of Cyprus plans, it's 1,000 times bigger. Why is it so much Indian investment goes to Dubai, so much Indian investment in London, so many Indians buying properties all over? Why don't we have Indian investors buying property in Cyprus? And what can we do to attract those guys to Cyprus? Direct flights, that's a good idea.
I believe by buying properties in Cyprus is not enough. My vision, because Cyprus historically is a trade and business intersection between East and West, accepting different business cultures, approaches, and habits, and India is heading the innovation. Cyprus, unfortunately, left behind in this area of business. I believe that it would be a very good combination because Cyprus is a financial hub, and take into consideration the size and speed by which India innovates, it is the ideal area of cooperation because Cyprus being a hub, exporting innovation not only to Europe, but also to African countries, which are the next frontier, and innovation may assist hundreds of millions of lives of people. And I believe that where we should focus, and personally I do it by creating an accelerator, and I am a strong believer in startups and technology. My belief is the best area of cooperation and will be a great success if we all realize the importance of innovation and technology.
I can 100% agree with you. And I think innovation, entrepreneurship, new wealth creation is the way forward. Elena, tell us about the difference you've seen in India and how India has changed. I've been away from India now more than 25 years. I go regularly. I just went to visit my parents. I cannot recognize India. That is how fast it is changing. Tell us about the changes you have seen.
The same goes for me. The changes are vast and fast. I would start with the airport, which, I mean, you arrive now and it's, I mean, the procedures are much easier and fast. Then the fact that you have fantastic hotels. The level of the Oberoi or the Lila or whatever, it's amazing. You rarely find it in the world. And it's that Oriental style as well that it's really fascinating. In the past, it was difficult to convince the travelers that they will go to India and they won't get, with different gastroenteritis and all this. Today, they understand that you don't need to brush your teeth with bottled water. Yes. And the hotels now, they have filters that they're really, with the technology, amazing, so it's absolutely safe. The head of the country to embrace, the sector of tourism, because it's the fastest growing
But in
sector.
Cyprus also we invite everybody for souvlas.
But it was a unique experience to do yoga with the Prime Minister. And then I will go to the fact that you have fantastic shopping. Shopping.
Okay.
And I thought it was the Cypriots that they adore shopping and they go to India. But then, because I go often, I witness that everybody enjoys, the uniqueness of all these handicrafts and the materials and the carpets and the jewelry and all that. So that's a fantastic sector, because if I take a Cypriot and they spent last year, average they spent about 15,000 euros. And I took quite a few ladies that they adore there.
Now we know why Indian hotels are doing so well. Actually, I noticed that Condé Nast Traveler has listed for about 10 years now, among the 10 best hotels in the world, about 5 are Indian hotels. Whether it is Udaipur, it is Mahabaleshwar, it's Oberoi Group, Taj Group, and so on. We'll continue with that. Kostas, financial, banking, corporate investments. Are we okay now as far as India-Cyprus relations are concerned in terms of double taxation treaties? And is Cyprus at par with other countries vis-a-vis transit of capital or creation of holding companies? And if something needs to be done, what is it?
As it is mentioned, Cyprus is one of the biggest investors in India through foreign direct investments from Cyprus. And there was a lot of progress driven by the professionals here. And during the visit of the Cypriot president, a lot of agreements were signed and things are progressing well. I think that we have to, let me tell you that coming from Greece myself and living here for the last 10 years and having the chance to serve in the group board of the Bank of Cyprus in a very sensitive period back in 2013-14, where the events of the banking crisis took place, I saw the decisiveness and the ability of the Cypriot people to do business and find solutions where big problems arise. So for me, it was an amazing experience to see how Cyprus reacted during the crisis. So instead of, for example, complaining for some problems, I hear a lot for a potential bubble of the real estate sector with the citizenship schemes and all this stuff that we hear. We can see the opportunity. For example, there is a lot of potential driven by the need for tax substance because of the new directives and legislation in Cyprus also, which is a part of EU and Eurozone. So here is the opportunity to create the infrastructure, you mentioned Dubai, and use it in order to attract major corporations. India is a massive country. We could drive our interest in attracting corporations from India and use the infrastructure that we are creating here in Cyprus so that we fill any gaps and create new businesses that really actually take place in Cyprus. The example of the shipping company is more than material.
I can only note with satisfaction now we are running out of time. So I'm going to do two things. One, Natalia, I proposed when we organized the panel that we will continue this discussion online. I think we should have interviews with all these wonderful panelists, publish them online, and I'll ask all of you to contribute at least a blog every 4 to 6 weeks so that we increase the interest of Indian businesses and corporations in Cyprus and increase the interest of Cypriot businesses in India. Anna, before we go, I have to ask you, are you going to help increase cultural exchanges and collaboration like the kind of things Elena is doing? And I hope we will have a direct flight, as the gentleman suggests. There's already such a lot of goodwill between Indians and Cypriots, but it seems that the level of engagement is so little. How are you going to help increase this level of engagement through the Royal Commonwealth Society?
Thank you, Ajay. This is actually part of the added value that we as RCS Cyprus aspire to bring into the field. So we form part of the civil society, we are non-governmental, but I would like to urge everyone in this room today to please reach out to us, make use of this platform, make use of the civil society to everyone's benefit. And I was very happy to hear Foreign Minister Christodoulidis last week at an event at the University of Nicosia, where we are based, where he announced that he would seek to open a dialogue and all avenues of communication with civil society, with think tanks and with researchers, offering their input in foreign policy formulation. So if the foreign minister is willing to do that, then I guess it's also perhaps a good idea for business and the rest.
On that note, Natalia, thank you very much for organizing this event. Suresh, thanks a lot for all the help. High Commissioner, thank you for being such a gracious presence and host. And we hope we can continue this discussion and dialogue and see a manifold increase in Indian Cypriot cultural and economic relations. Thank you very much.